another edition of the RDFNL Footy Show, and I'm here at the mighty McPherson Park, and I've got a very special guest with us today. We've got Michael O'Keefe, the senior umpires coach. Thanks for joining us this week, mate.
Thanks, Yeendy.
At the old the bar here at
yeah, beautiful.
Super Rules. Yeah, good club, these guys over here. But it's certainly been a big week for you. You've just fresh off a nice week of relaxation, mate. But you're back into the fold now and ready to go for heading into the final run of the home and away season.
Yeah, mate, we'll just push through now to finals. It's probably a bit of a crucial time for our umpiring group as they head towards September. We guys now sort of assess themselves at where they're at. We'll do some mid-year reviews. For some guys this is about the mid-year because of course umpires get to do finals, so 4 extra weeks no matter where the clubs finish. So yeah, it's an exciting time. So we'll be out there really having a look at how our guys are going now leading into September.
The numbers haven't been too flattering, mate. Just give an idea of, let's say last week, we had to have quite a few guys double up from under 18s and seniors, which highlights the current situation through injuries and unavailability.
Yeah, we're in an interesting situation because we're the biggest we've ever been. We've got 165 umpires, which is the biggest in Riddell Umpire's history. Yep. But it's where those numbers sit. So they're all sitting as boundary umpires and junior field umpires. So the challenge now is to convert them into senior field umpires. And I guess there's a limitation. You can't put a 15-year-old out into an under 18s or reserves game. They really need to be around that 17 before we start thinking about it. So that'll be our challenge over the summer. I mean, 2 years ago we had too many umpires in the field and not enough in the boundary. So, you know, it swings and roundabouts, but if we can keep growing the group, I think we'll be okay. But look, this week's great. It's like footy clubs, injuries, unavailability, people go on holidays. It all plays a part.
Well, you've got a very interesting situation this week. I know the game that I'm involved with in particular, you've got someone who does senior goals, but generally runs out and does junior field. You're actually giving some of these guys an opportunity to step up into the field in under 18s footy.
Yeah, we've got no junior footy on Sunday, so I got on the phone to our junior coach Billy Mitchell and I said, who have you got around the 17, 18, 16-year-old mark that maybe would in the future be looking umpire Saturday footy? They haven't got a game on Sunday, so why don't we get them involved? And I got a few names off Billy, and one that you're running with, young Ben Scott, who's a goal umpire on Saturday. I've got young Jake Patton, who's a senior boundary umpire, running an under 18s game as well. The idea would be that next year we move them into the field. It's unusual to have a goal umpire, and it's great to see. We've probably got a good amount of young goal umpires pushing through at the moment, which is great.
I've noticed a few, especially goal umpires coach Ken McIntyre, he stepped up into the field role. How have you found having to sort of manoeuvre some of these guys that perhaps wouldn't usually do a field into under 18s field matches?
Look, what the issue that then we have is it puts the fixture into a bit of a gridlock. So they've got to be at the ground that they're umpiring their senior game at.
Yep.
So they're locked in. And then we might have some other areas where there's some young kids that need to be close to home because mum can't get them there this week. So that's the difference, I guess, with umpiring compared to playing footy. When you play, you've got your fixture for the year, you know where you're going, and half the year you're at home.
Yep.
Where our guys, there is no home. So it's a real balancing act, and it gets a real gridlock in that 18s reserves area, a real balancing act each week, and that's what we spend a lot of our time on. And look, if we could grow those numbers and not have to do that, then there'd be a little bit more flexibility around who we appoint, and I think clubs would see an improvement in the umpires they get at 18s and reserves levels.
So what we're going to start to see next year is we're going to hopefully see a few more of these boundaries step up the field, whereas this year that seems to be a problem because particularly we're seeing more umpires doubling up even without the situation as last week where umpires doing under 18s and seniors.
Yeah, so that's our goal over the summer is to move these guys, highlight who's great, and most of them are doing junior field already. All right, are you ready to take the step? But in saying that, guys and girls have a right to pursue boundary and goal to the top level if that's what they want. I mean, the game needs the umpires in all three disciplines. So if a young Ben Scott says to me, well, I want to be an AFL goal umpire, we can't force him to become a field umpire. And I know clubs and spectators, for them it's really all about the field umpires, and I get that. Yeah. But we're here to nurture all three areas and grow them into the game. And in fact, some of our biggest successes have actually been in the goal and boundary at AFL level, and currently we only have a goal umpire at AFL level from this group. So we've got to be careful to get the balance right as well.
We're talking about getting balance right. It's obviously about paying the right free kick, mate. Let's just pick a hot topic in the AFL.
Yep.
Holding the ball.
Yep.
Obviously very contentious. What sort of things are you looking with your umpires, particular field? How you're encouraging them to interpret the rule?
I think the first thing to say is that at local footy level, we give players much more of an opportunity to dispose of the ball because the skill level is not as high as the AFL, and that's all our rules right across.
Yep.
But when an umpire sees a tackle laid, this is what he does. He first of all assesses is the tackle legal.
Yep.
If it's not legal, then there's no question, there's no holding the ball, can't be paid. It has to be a head high or a trip or in the back, whatever that decision might be. But if the tackle is legal, then they've got two questions. Did he have a prior or didn't he have a prior opportunity? If he hasn't had a prior opportunity, apart from throwing it or placing it on the ground, pretty much it can come out any way it can.
Yep.
I know players argue that he dropped it, but if the umpire feels that the tackle just contributed to it being dropped in any way, we're going to call play on. So if players and spectators in their mind get, if they haven't had a prior, the chances of getting holding the ball are minimal. Unless the tackle doesn't hold the arms down and the player could get a handball or kick, then we've got to give him some time to do that.
Yeah.
Then we might ping him. That's pretty rare. Usually at this level, the ball just comes out and the tackle we call play on. If he's had a prior opportunity, then he's got to get rid of it straight away. And that's pretty black and white. If he doesn't get rid of it, it's holding the ball.
The conditions are getting a little bit more slippery, a little bit wet. Does that change the dynamics a bit more?
We're certainly more lenient when the player's standing up. We give them that little bit of extra time to get rid of it. I reckon where we're a bit tougher is where guys dive on the ball, because we don't, on a wet day, we don't want 50 ball ups a quarter. So on a wet day, our guys probably get a little bit tougher on the guys diving on the ball, and they'll let the players know that early in the game. We just can't dive on it and push it into the mud in wet weather. We're actually a little bit tougher on that. We want to encourage them to try to get that ball out on a wet day.
Is that important where the umpires have got to keep up their communication around the packs as well?
Yeah, and they've got to say, the first holding the ball of the day they play, that they need to communicate and say, you dived on it and you didn't get it out, and we're going to be hot on that today. We want to keep the ball moving. So yeah, our guys have to communicate really, really clearly on that.
Well, that's no doubt, as we approach finals, we'll be able to sort of look at a few more other areas again. Now, we've got a few big weekend of action, round 12. We'll just go through some of the games, mate. We've got the game between Wood and Heston and Sunbury Kangaroos, which has now been moved to Eric Boardman Reserve. What's your take on that game?
Well, that certainly will assist our umpires, because we're going to a game that's at a ground that from word this week, held up really well in the rain.
Yep.
So it allows our guys to run that out a little bit more. When I'm doing my appointments for a game like that, certainly obviously swings it back to Sunbury a little bit.
Yep.
When I'm looking at my appointments. So the way I do my appointments, obviously look at if there's a game where two clubs are very close on the ladder, then they're going to get, I'll put some of my better umpires there because it's going to be a challenging game. So that game there probably just swings it back to Sunbury a little bit more than it probably was already. But in saying that, my appointments were done before that change was made, and I didn't go back in to make any changes. So,
who have you got running out there?
Oh look, you've got me on the spot there, mate. I've got obviously about 44 appointments a week in the field, so I can't remember where everyone goes. But
that's all right. We'll put you under the pump, mate.
Yeah, you have. But I need my sheet here. But yeah, certainly it'll be much better for our umpires on a dry ground for sure.
Sensational. Who do you think might get up in that one?
Oh, look, you'd have to favour Sunbury there for sure, especially being back at home. I mean, Woodend have always been competitive for a quarter or a half, and at home in the bog, you'd probably give them a bit more of a chance. But back on a dry ground, you think Sunbury have got the runners to win that one.
And Lansfield and Rupo, we know Lansfield got the job done over Sunbury Kangaroos a couple of weeks ago, and Rupert's Wood, their first win in the RDFL was at Lansfield last year. Despite the conditions, do you think Lansfield might be a bit of a chance in causing a bit of an upset?
Look, I had Lansfield about 3 weeks ago, and I was really impressed. And if they can perform for a whole 4 quarters, I actually give them a chance to beat anyone in the competition, probably apart from Romsey, who are just going really well. So I really give them a chance, but boy, Rupo can run. You know, they're the quickest side in the competition. Remind me of Port Adelaide in the AFL. They just run all day. And really, the times they've been beaten have generally Rupo this year in the last quarter when they've just run out of legs.
And they've had 2 big games against good opposition where that's happened. Speaking of another good running side, Rockbank, been a bit in form. Had the bye last week, but they face a red hot Romsey.
Yeah, look, you just can't even look at tipping against Romsey at the moment. They're just one of the best sides we've seen in the last few years, but finals will come around and that'll be a different test. But you give Rockbank a chance to probably beat anyone from 3rd or 4th down, but I probably can't see them beating Romsey this week.
Well, we'll certainly see how that one goes. We've got a big game down here at Mackie Park. Melbourne Central's v the Sunbury Kangaroos, and how do the conditions generally play at McPherson Park?
Look, here they're always dry and hard, and as long as we don't get rain the day before, it's hard as a rock here at McPherson Park. In fact, I believe we had a club last week or the week before asked for sand to be put out in the middle because it was so hard. Look, Central's at home, and look, Sunbury's form's been up and down, so I actually give Central's a bit of a sneaky chance here on Saturday. So yeah, you'd give them a chance.
And do make the apology as well. It's Woodend and Warren at Sunbury.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's where the mix-up is. Well, I made the mix-up there, mate. That's the beauty about keeping the footage. But that will be a really good game anyway.
Yeah, it will be.
So there we go. We'll tip that to be a really good one. Now we got Macedon v Diggers Rest.
Macedon Diggers Rest, wow. Look, you'd favour Diggers, and Macedon have probably been a little bit disappointing this year. I'm sure they'd say that themselves. So you'd put Diggers in there, and is that at Macedon?
Macedon, yeah.
Look, it's going to be, the middle's always a bit wet there. The winds are usually pretty good. So that'll be interesting, but you'd probably tip Diggers there, I think.
And the last game, we had a look at Kilmore last week. They were pretty impressive in parts, but Broadford, they've stepped up after a team that hadn't won a game all season. They've won 3 in a row. Broadford, they're looking pretty good at the moment.
Yeah, I had Broadford for their first win in that game, and that was against Wallen, and they led all day, and I think Wallen just thought they'd run over the top in the end, but I was pretty impressed with they've got a bit of hardness in the middle there, Broadford, so that's a real 50-50 game, I think, and wow, they're on a roll, and from a club that a few weeks ago hadn't won a game, and rumours about where they might be next year. Well, I mean, maybe they're rethinking what's happening there, because if they could pick up 1 or 2 players over the summer, they'll be very competitive next year going forward.
We've got a very impressive midfielder. Remember, so that this weekend's games are being covered on radio. Of course, we've got Kilmore and Broadford on 98.3 OKR FM. We're on Highlands FM over at Macedon. It's going to be a pretty good day, pretty good weekend of footy, and of course we've also got the charity day out at Romsey. Have you managed to get any other umpires out there? No, we've got the great man Mick Partridge, who will entertain the crowd.
He will. Mickey Partridge there in the field, and look, we could have some boundary and goal umpires as well. We always have our major fundraising day on this Sunday every year, the weekend off or the Sunday off for our umpires. So we have our major raffle. So we're hoping to have a big turnout at the Diggers Rest Bowling Club there for that. Yeah, we've got that. We've also welcomed back Paul McGarry from Far North Queensland, who's been travelling with the Interleague side this weekend. So he'll be back on the park after probably nice and tan from his run there.
And a couple of wins too as well.
Yeah, they did, the boys. So look, they're great opportunities for players and umpires, and we've been giving our guys those opportunities all year this year. We've been doing some swaps with Ballarat umpires. We've had some interleague games, some Vic Metro games, some youth girls games. So we try to give our guys and girls as much exposure to other competitions and opportunities as we can. Next week, the coach of the amateurs, the senior field coach Tony Hales, will be here running a session for our guys, and I'll be going down there tomorrow night to the Amos to run a session. So these are sort of things we're trying to do to improve our group.
Sensational, mate. Well, thanks for joining us here on the Footy Show for this week, highlighting round 12. I'm getting you a bit of a look into the umpiring fraternity. Hopefully catch you before the finals, mate, and hopefully all members are thriving and your job is the hardest in football.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.